Prabhupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Pecharine Nirvisesha Dunyavadi Paschita Deshatharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Radhanata Radha, Radhanata Radhe. Jaya Radha, Krishna Radha, Krishna Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Damodar Mas ki jai. Shri Bhishma Panchaka ki jai. So I'm going to read the introduction prayer, and then Paramatma Prabhu, if you can please just read the English after that, immediately after that, right? Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpat Arubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Paramatma Prabhu.
I was born in the darkness ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna Maji, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Okay, we just got a message from Veronica Mataji. She asked to please be excused. She's got no power today. All right. Right, so today I think we will just start off with glorifying a little bit more on the month of Kartik. Before we start reading our Bhagavad Gita, I'd like to start off by saying we are already in Bhishma Panchak. Bhishma Panchak started on Friday, on the day of Uttana Ekadashi. Right? Bhishma Panchak is the last 5 days of Kartik and is dedicated to Bhishma Dev. Now, you will all remember from our earlier discussions in classes, Bhishma Dev is the grandfather of Arjuna and the Pandavas and the Kauravas, Arjuna and Duryodhana. He's their grandfather, the great-grandfather. Bhishma Dev was a very great soul, an extremely elevated devotee of Krishna. And as you all know, the story goes where Bhishma Dev vowed a life of celibacy. He never got married, just to satisfy not the request, it wasn't a request of his father. His father wanted to marry a queen, but that future father-in-law of the king placed a lot of restrictions on this whole scenario. He said to Bhishma Dev's father that you can only marry my daughter on one condition that any children born of your marriage to my daughter, those children must be heirs to the throne and not your existing son Bhishma. So when Bhishma Dev, the king said, he can't do this, so he'd rather not marry this princess, this lady that he met. And he goes back to the palace, and he was he looked very sad. And Bhishma Dev did some inquiries and realized that was what was making his father sad. He went straight to the village of where this person whom his father wanted to marry, went straight to the village and approached this personality's father and vowed to that person that I shall never marry. He made such a big sacrifice just for the benefit of his father, for the happiness of his father. And then this, he was actually a fisherman, this person, whose daughter Bhishma Dev King Shantanu wanted to marry. So this fisherman said to Bhishma Dev, fine, you will, you say that you won't, no. First Bhishma Dev said that he will definitely not, he said initially, he said to the fisherman that, he'll stand aside. He doesn't want to be king. He will never be crowned king. That he should not fear. And he should definitely give his daughter's hand in marriage to the father. Then the fisherman said, but what if you get married and your children, you don't want to become king, but what if your children start fighting for that throne? And then Bhishma Dev said, then that's fine. If that's the case, if that's your fear and that's your worry, then I won't marry. And he vowed that entire life of celibacy. He made a very, very great sacrifice for the happiness of his father. Very selfless. And apart from that, Bhishma Dev was also the son of Ganga Devi, Mother Ganga. And furthermore, he was a great devotee of Krishna. Okay, so the last 5 days of Kartik is dedicated to Bhishma Dev because when the war was over, and we all know victory was awarded to the Pandavas, Arjun and his brothers at the end. When the war was over, Bhishma Dev was lying there on the battlefield, very ill, like almost going to lose his life. But Bhishma Dev was so powerful that he had the ability to choose when he wanted to leave his life. It was left entirely up to him, whether he wanted to leave today or tomorrow or in a few hours or in a few minutes. So Bhishma Dev signaled to Arjuna and those that were present, and he said that he wanted a pillow to rest his head because his head was uncomfortable. And others didn't understand him. And they were going to get some material means of comfort for his head. And then Arjuna looked and understood exactly what grandfather Bhishma wanted. Arjuna, you know, the great archer, pulled out his bow and shot a whole lot of arrows and made a bed for Bhishma Dev and a pillow for his head of arrows. And Bhishma Dev lied there on that bed of arrows for the last 5 days of Kartik. And whilst lying on that bed for the last 5 days of Kartik, he preached. Krishna was also present there at that point. So he preached to Arjuna and his brothers and all those present. He preached codes and ethics of warfare, of how to run a country. He preached on dharma. Dharma is, religious principles. He preached on moksha, which means salvation. He preached spiritually. He preached spiritually as well. And he did that for a consecutive number of days, 5 days. And at the end, when he decided that he was ready to leave his body on that last day of Kartik, Krishna was very, very pleased with him. And Krishna said, Bhishma, you have done such lovely preaching, such righteous preaching. You have given this preaching from the day of Ekadasi to the day of Purnima. That means from the Ekadasi day right up to Purnima. Purnima meaning the last day, the full moon night of Kartik, the last night of Kartik. So these 5 days, I will dedicate in your memory. And anybody who fasts on these last 5 days of Kartik, they will get benefit very, very greatly. And also, Krishna said, whoever does not manage to do all the austerities during the entire month of Kartik, if they very faithfully observe this last 5 days of Kartik, they will also benefit very greatly. If they glorify Bhishma Dev and pray to Bhishma Dev also, their destination will be very favorable. So this last day, 5 days of Kartik is very, very important. Krishna himself has dedicated this last 5 days of Kartik to Bhishma Dev. And therefore it is called Bhishma Panchak. Panchak means 5, right? And also a lot of devotees, they do different kinds of sacrifices in this last 5 days. Some devotees choose to do Ekadasi fast in the last 5 days where they won't take grains. Some devotees just eat 1 meal a day or just 2 meals a day. Some will only eat khichdi, some will only eat fruit. Some will eat normal meals, but they do extra rounds of japa or they will engage in extra devotional service. Some of them will distribute more books. Just various kinds of things that you can do in this last 5 days. So if any of you didn't know about Bhishma Panchaka, I'm sure all of you did. But if you didn't know about Bhishma Panchaka and now that you've been enlightened, just dedicate more devotional service within this last few days that are left, because Kartik ends on Tuesday. And today is Sunday. So we've got tonight, we've got Monday and Tuesday. So, maybe you're going to offer an extra lamp, share lamps, and pray to Bhishma Dev, being such a great personality, that he may bestow his mercy upon you. Because we said previously, many times previously, that Vaishnavas or devotees of the Lord are very merciful. and they can show you the pathway to them. So you can pray like that. Right. Okay, so let's move on to today's lesson. Before we move on, anybody wants to share anything on Bhishma Panchak, you're most welcome to do so. Anybody want to say anything on Bhishma Panchak? Anything that you've read and you'd like to share? Please do so now. Kadruta Mataji, you want to say anything on Bhishma Panchak?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. They are for me very important these last 5 days from Kartik, but also I feel sadness. I don't know why, but every year I am upset because these beautiful months finish. And of course we pray to Bhishma and we try to fast these days, but not all the days because we are working, and try later until noon like this. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Mata, I didn't quite get what you said. I didn't hear. Every year you are upset because?
Because it's finished. These beautiful months, Kartik month.
Okay.
You see. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. It's such a nice realization. Because Kadruta Mataji, you are attached. You are so attached to, obviously very attached to Krishna, to Radharani, and that's why you feel this attachment to the most important month in the calendar. Because this month is very dear to Krishna, and the presiding deity in this month is Srimati Radharani. So you clearly got their mercy, and that's why you feel this attachment to this month. And when the month is over, you feel sad. So that's a very beautiful realization. It is sad when this month is over, and it's very exciting when we get close to the month. And like, you know, we just wait the whole year for Kartik to come. But on that note, nothing stops us from doing what we did during Kartik for the rest of the year. We can just pump up our devotional service and maintain that Kartik mood throughout. And we can offer the Modar lamp every day of the year as well. Why not? I know of devotees who do it. They offer the Modar lamp every day. So that's also quite nice. And then, you know, just maintain that mood of Kartik all year long. It's very, very nice to maintain that mood. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, anybody else?
Yes, Mataji, it's Madhuri. I'm very, Hare Krishna. I'm also very emotional about ending of Kartik for the last 5 days. And I do offer the lamp. Now, after this, I offer it also the diyas to Tulsi Rani, just to continue with the Kartik. That's how, like, I'm also very attached.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to hear that all of you are so attached to this month of Kartik. It shows such nice advancement on the spiritual path. To be attached to anything that pleases Krishna is a step in the right direction. It shows spiritual growth. Okay, and yes, Mataji, continue to offer your lamp for as long as you can and you are able to, and offer to Tulsi Maharani as well is good. In fact, maybe you can incorporate Tulsi Puja in your daily practice. Every morning, what we generally do. Yeah, offer Aarti to Tulsi Devi.
I do that.
Recite the Tulsi Aarti, and that's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
All right. Anybody else? We're all good?
Mataji, I just wanted to know something about this Kartik Mass because I've gotten a message from one of our groups of the temple stating that you can still observe Kartik till the 30th of November. You can still do your lamp offering, yes.
Okay, who did give you that message, Mataji? Where did you get it from?
I got it from our Krishna Mercy, you know, that group.
No, which Namahatha? You got it from the Namahatha group?
No, it's from the temple group, NJP.
Is it? Okay, you must forward me that message. But
yes.
Kartik Purnima is on the 7th. which is Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I know that Radhanath Temple and NJP, they all celebrating Kartik Purnima on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, but you can still
But
carry on.
there's no harm. Yeah, fine. That's wonderful. But as I said, we can offer lamps every day to Damodar. You know,
Okay.
just maintain
okay.
that Kartik mood if it's possible, and if you want to, if you have the desire to. There's no harm.
I also wanted to know which are the 12 Mahajans that you can offer lamps to on this Kartik time.
There's only 12 Mahajans.
Yes, the names of those Mahajans?
I don't know them all offhand, but Bhishma Devi is one.
One, yes, I know. Yes.
Yeah, Bhishma Devi is one. What I'll do is I'll get the list and I'll post it to the group.
Oh, thank you, Mataji. Thank
but
you very much.
Mataji, lamp offering is done to Krishna, to Damodar in this month. It's dedicated to him, Radharani and Krishna. You offer the lamp to them. And after that, you can offer it to the other personalities. You know, like how we do in the temple, we offer it to Radha Damodar and Yashoda Damodar, and then we offer it to the other personalities on the altar and the gurus. Like that, you can do it like that. Yeah.
Okay, no, I do that. That part I do. But I just wanted to know what is this next step, because I watched the Mayapur TV, that Kartik program, and there was one devotee, I think he had about 7 or 8 lamps in his hands, and he had lit all, and he was offering all those lamps one time.
Oh, okay.
So I was just wondering what is, like if it's any significance in that, or
maybe I don't know the reasoning behind him having so many lamps, but it could be that he is offering for other people as well, because you can offer lamps for other people.
For other people, okay. Thanks, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe somebody's ill and you want to offer on their behalf, you know, or maybe your child is not at home, he's gone out to work or something, you want to offer on his behalf or on behalf of a friend. I do that as well.
Okay.
A lot of people do that. You know, where you'll offer the lamp, and then after you offer your lamp, you take Achman, you wash your hands, you bow down, wash your hands, and then you take another lamp and you offer on behalf of another person. It's nice to pray for other people.
Yes.
It pleases Krishna a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Right, so let's go on to today's verses, right? We're on chapter 3. Okay, I think I've shared my screen. Yeah, it is sharing. Okay, chapter 3, verse 5. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tishtati akarmakrit karyate hi avashyaha karma sarvaha prakriti jai gunai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, who wants to read first today? Paramatma Prabhu, you want to start?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupations dictated by the illusionary energy. In contact with material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes, and to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Sastras. But if the soul is engaged in his natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 confirms this, affirms this. Should I continue, Mataji, or I get someone else to continue?
No, it's fine. You can continue. I'm just moving the screen.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam affirms this.
Here we go. You continue.
If someone... Okay, Okay, if someone takes to Krishna consciousness, then even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the sastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the sastras, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna conscious? So the purificatory process is necessary for reaching the point of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Connection is not very clear today. I hope everyone can hear me, but I'm not hearing everybody very well. Okay, so here, remember now, at the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna was feeling confused again, and he said to Krishna that you want me to engage, you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare. But if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work, why do you want to engage me as such? So Arjuna is thinking more now again on the lines of confusion, where he feels that it may actually not be necessary to engage in this warfare. Right? Because he feels that now, if you engage your mind in intelligence, if you study Shastra, and you go into meditation and all of that, then there's no need for fruitive work. There's no need to actually go out and fight. But Krishna said to Arjuna many times before, at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, that one, it's his duty, two, he wants to establish principles of dharma. So that's why he's urging Arjuna to fight and all of that. So now, in this verse, here, the Lord goes on to explain, and he says that the nature of the soul is always active. The soul cannot remain inactive. And if you recall, previously we discussed about, we get like some yogis who go into this meditation for many, many years. And when they attain a certain level at the end of their life, if they're successful, then they reach their goal of joining with Brahman. Brahman is the effulgence of the Lord. It's that sphere between the material and the spiritual world. It's just like rays of light. It's just effulgence of the Lord. And then when those souls go there, they remain inactive, so to speak, for a while. They just remain there doing nothing, basically, idle, right? But we also know that when the soul leaves the body, it leaves with mind, intelligence, and ego, and false ego. So when that soul goes into this area of Brahman, the effulgence of the Lord, because these yogis, their aim is to join that light, that effulgence. So when they go there, they've still got their minds with them. The soul still has its mind with it, because that subtle body takes the mind with it. And we also know that the mind is very, very active. The mind cannot remain inactive for a long period of time. There's only so much you can control the mind. So as soon as that soul's mind thinks of something and desires something, then that soul will have to fall into or follow that direction where the mind is taking it. Most of the time what happens with that soul is it falls back into material existence. It falls back into material existence. So it comes back here and takes another material body and follows the cycle of birth and death all over again. So that point I was just making on the fact that the nature of the soul is always active, as Prabhupada said, and I've highlighted it, right? Now, Prabhupada goes on here to say that without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. We also spoke about this earlier. We said that the soul present in the body is consciousness. For soul present in the body is consciousness. It gives the body consciousness, whether it's an animal body or a plant body or a human body. If the soul is not present, then that entity is dead. It becomes matter. And then Prabhupada goes on here to say, in contact with material nature, material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes. There are three material modes, right? What are the three material modes? You know the three material modes, right? Goodness, passionate, ignorance. Now we're going to explore this more later on in later chapters. So the material world is made up of these three modes. And the soul housed in this body comes in, the senses come into contact with these three material modes. And these three material modes influence it. And where you want to actually be placed, in which mode, whether be it ignorance, passion, or goodness, is all dependent on your sadhana, right? The way you practice. So here, to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastra. So whatever your duty is, you've got to do it in order to purify the soul from these modes of material nature. So if you're a Brahmin, you're meant to preach. If you're a Kshatri, you're meant to protect. If you're a Vaishya, you're meant to do trade. If you're a Shudra, you're meant to serve the other three classes. That's our Varanashram system as well, which we spoke about earlier. So that's what Prabhupada is saying here, explaining what Krishna says. And he says, to purify the soul from such affinities, what affinities? The modes of material nature. It is necessary to engage in your prescribed duty. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna, in other words, fruit of action is required, because fruit of work is required, because you've got to do your duty. When you do your duty, when you do your work, then there's some fruit to it. And then we're going to speak later on about the fruit of your actions as well. Krishna is going to speak about that as well, what you do with the fruit of your action. Right, and then Prabhupada explains further and says that if the soul is engaged in natural function of Krishna consciousness, see, the important word here, natural function, because our natural constitution is to serve the Supreme, serve our Creator. So therefore, Prabhupada very nicely chooses the words here. He says, the natural function of Krishna consciousness. If the soul is engaged in that, whatever he is able to do is good for him. So you can be situated in the class of trade, being a Vaishya. But if you are naturally, you awaken your dormant love for Krishna, your natural love for Krishna, and you're situated in Krishna consciousness, then whatever work you are doing as a Vaishya, as a businessman, you will offer it to Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. And there's a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam here, 1.5.17, where this point is elaborated upon, and we just read it, right? So when we do all these activities that we are meant to do, our duties, following Shastra, we do all our duties. Prabhupada says here, it serves as a purificatory process. And that purificatory process is necessary for reaching the point of Krishna consciousness. So you can't abandon your duty. And that's what Krishna is telling Arjuna here. Arjuna is asking, about the fruit of work. And he says, but Krishna, you said, intelligence is better. So why must I engage in this fruit of work? And then Krishna says, explaining like this. Okay. And also here as well, therefore, sannyas or purification process is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna consciousness, without which everything is considered a failure. So if you're not Krishna conscious, if you're not God conscious, then everything else is a failure. You'll then be doing your work on a very mundane level. You'll be doing your work thinking that that's the ultimate goal. Like some people got no sight or no vision of God consciousness. And they say, we live once, let's us live our life to the maximum. Let us make merry, let us be happy. Live only once. But they're wrong, because they don't only live once. They die and they come back and they live again. And it's happened to them in the past. And it's going to continue happening if they don't break the cycle of birth and death. If they do not do their duties, as Krishna is saying here, which is a purificatory process, which is necessary for Krishna consciousness. They don't follow that and then become Krishna conscious and offer the results to Krishna and dovetail all the actions to Krishna. They don't reach a level of God consciousness, then everything else is a failure. And they will keep falling into this cycle of material birth and death. Okay, let's go to verse 3:6 now. Who wants to read first? Kadruta Mataji, you want to read this verse? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karmendriyani samyami, ya astem manasa smaran, indriyartam vimudatma, midyacharaha sauchate. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Purport. There are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness but make a show of meditation while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. Such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers. But according to this verse, they are the greatest cheaters. For sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity of the social order, but if one follow the rules and regulation of his particular status, he can make gradual progress in purifying his existence. But he who makes a show of being a yogi while actually searching for the object of sense gratification must be called the greatest cheater, even though he sometimes speaks of philosophy. His knowledge has no value because the effects of such a sinful man's knowledge are taken away by the illusory energy of the Lord. Such a pretender's mind is always impure, and therefore his show of yogic meditation has no value whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Right, so Krishna is going on to say here, Arjun, what Krishna is getting at here is that saying, Arjuna, you do your fruitive work, you perform your action, in other words, because it's your duty. Don't artificially restrain your senses. Because a person who artificially restrains his senses is called a pretender, as Prabhupada is elaborating here in the purport. He says pretenders refuse to do Krishna conscious work. They don't want to get involved in activities. They'd rather sit in meditation, right? But not all yogis who sit in meditation are pretenders, right? We're using an example here. A lot of people will just shy away or shun away devotional service and say, I don't want to do it because I am busy doing my sadhana, I am busy meditating. But where is the mind? Where is the mind? Can the mind concentrate itself for so long? It's a very high level to reach where your mind can actually focus on a mantra for a very long period of time, like a number of years. So for us as practitioners, we need to engage in our activity, right? We must not be pretenders. We must do our devotional service and do our duties. And here Prabhupada is saying that such a person, his knowledge has no value because the effects of such a simple man's knowledge are taken away by illusory energy of the Lord. So such pretenders, they stand up pretending to be big yogis and so-called yogis, and they say that, want to give discourses and talk about this and talk about that. That kind of knowledge has no effect because that sinful man, Prabhupada says, that sinful man's knowledge is actually taken away by illusory energy of the Lord. Right? Because such a pretender is impure. Okay. At verse 7. Anybody else wants to read here? Welcome. Okay. Yasve indriyani manasa niyam yar bhate arjuna karmendriyani karma yogam ashaktaha sa vishishyate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here, Krishna is saying, on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is far superior. So, okay, let's read the purport before I say anything. Instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage and enter into the kingdom of God. The prime svartagati, or goal of self-interest, is to reach Vishnu, or God. Right? The whole institution of Varan and Ashram is designed to help us to reach this goal of life. A householder can also reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment, and in this way make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than a false pretender who adopts show-bottle spiritualism to cheat innocent people. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. So here Prabhupada is talking about people who pretend to be gurus and they just try to make money out of the whole thing. Come to me, I am a great guru and I'm this big yogi. I sit and I meditate for such long periods of time. If you come to me, I can see the future for you. I can give you very good advice that will help you get over all your obstacles. But when you go to these so-called gurus, what do they want first? Most of them, what they ask you for first. They have a big donation box there, right? They want some money for it. So it becomes like a business activity. And he is not engaging himself in devotional service. He's not offering his daily activities to Krishna. He's not engaged in devotional service. He's not doing anything else for devotional service. He's pretending as though he sits for in meditation for a number of whatever months, and then he calls on people, and innocent people go and get cheated. Okay. So let's just discuss this point. Action in Krishna consciousness and devotional service is inaction. What does anybody understand by this? This first point. If we say action in Krishna consciousness is actually inaction, what are we talking about? Come, please, let's hear from someone. Paramatma Prabhu? What will this sign mean? Yeah.
I think it means there's no karma for that.
Yes, why?
It's neutral because it's in Krishna consciousness.
When does it become karma-free?
Anything in devotional service.
Yes, but a little bit more than that. Like if say, let's take an example, right? Today I made a garland for Krishna. Right?
Yeah.
That's an action I performed, right? I physically did something. I'm not sitting inactive. I've performed an action. But I'm going to say to Paramatma Prabhu, it's inaction. And you're going to say, yes, Mataji, it's inaction because you did devotional service. But what was Sarvanga Sundari's mood in doing this garland? It's also important, right? Isn't it? So if I do this devotional service on making the garland, for example, right? And I take this thing and I post it all over Facebook post it on all social media, and I will tell everybody, look at this garment that I've made. I made it for Krishna. Who made it? Me. I. Then what happens to that action? I become attached to it, right? Because I'm saying, I did it. I did it. So I'm not taking that action and offering it to Krishna. I'm not saying, oh, Krishna, I made this. This garland was made today by me. Only due to your causeless mercy, because you bestowed your mercy upon me, because your devotees were so merciful and gave me a chance to do this devotional service. This garland got made. And Krishna, you are the ability in man. You have given me the ability to make this garland. Isn't it? Then what I'm doing now, I am abandoning the fruit of that action. I'm not saying it's mine. I'm now giving the credit to Krishna. I'm giving the credit to his devotees and to him. So I've got nothing to do with the result of making that garland. And I'm not saying it's wrong to post pictures of a beautiful garland that you've made, right? Because then you're giving people a chance to take darshan of an offering that was made to the Lord. You are giving people a chance to take darshan of the deities. And what I'm saying is, don't take credit for it. Know and understand that the action that you are doing, you have nothing to do with the fruits. Then it becomes inaction. You sacrifice the fruit. Don't be attached to what reward you're going to get for it. Well done, Mataji. You're the best garland maker. We don't want to hear things like that, right? We've got to sacrifice the fruit. So if you go, for example, let's take a very simple, plain day-to-day example, right? Something that affects us personally. Can anybody think of something? You're working, you go to work every day, and you're working to get some reward at the end of the month. That reward is coming into your bank account in the form of money, right? Now you can become attached to that money. You say, it's my money, it's my hard work, I worked for it. But if you take that money and then now you start engaging it in Krishna's services, then you are giving up the fruit of that action of your work. Make sense? Right, and then on the other hand, we speak of forceful restraining of the senses without any action, without any devotional service. So you get people who sit now and only meditate. They don't want to do anything else. They don't want to perform their duty. You get a householder who says, I've had enough now of household life. I'm skipping this ashram totally. But this householder, I'm taking an example now, right? But if this householder still has duty towards his young wife and young children, and he sacrifices those duties and says, I'm giving it up now. I'm going to go and sit in an ashram. I'm going to meditate there for the rest of my life. Then that is called action. Because firstly, it's wrong to abandon your duty, because this whole Bhagavad Gita is based on duty as well. Krishna still starts on this chapter 3 saying to Arjuna that he's got to do his duty. He speaks of work here, right? Work in Arjuna's case being fighting the war. So firstly, it's wrong. You cannot abandon your ashram or your duty and go and do something else. Suddenly skip from grihastha into sannyas. You can't do that. You've got to finish the duty that you have brought upon yourself in form of karma first. You've got to go step by step. Remember, we spoke about brahmachari, householders, grihastha life, and then we spoke about vanapasta, where you slowly wean off and then you go into sannyas, complete renunciation. Unless you go from brahmachari, and you totally want to give up the other two ashrams in between and remain brahmachari until such time that you take sannyas, that's a different case. But you can't now from brahmachari to householder and before prematurely leave your ashram, like run away from your duty. Like Arjuna wanted to run away from the battlefield. Remember at the beginning in chapter 2, he put down his bow and he said to Krishna, I'd rather go into the forest and meditate, it's better than having a blood-stained kingdom. You remember that? And Krishna was totally disagreed with that and said, you cannot do that, Arjuna. You are in this ashram of a Kshatriya, you're a householder, you're a prince. You've got to fight for what is yours. Okay, so firstly, that is wrong. You can't just abandon your duty and run away. Like from a householder, straight, leave your young children and your family and go into, for example, sannyas or something. You got to follow the steps, right? So if such a person goes and sits like in meditation, his mind is going to get disturbed. He's going to be thinking about things because he left prematurely. He didn't follow the purificatory processes, as Krishna spoke in the verse before this. Doing your duty is purificatory process. Because while doing your duty, you're sacrificing the fruits of that action. So what's the point of sitting now and forcefully restraining your senses and your mind is working? So in a case like this, where a person is forcefully restraining his senses and his mind is working, it's called a person. So such a person would say he is in action. He's not doing his duty, but he is active because his mind is active. That's what it means. The action in Krishna consciousness is inaction. And inaction, sitting quietly one side, pretending to be in deep meditation, is actually action because the mind is working. They're clear. We open up here, we chat. Madhuri Mataji? I'm unmuting you, Madhuri Mataji.
Okay. Yes, Mataji.
Yes. Well, what do you think on this action and inaction? You got what we say.
The action is like karma yoga, isn't it? The work that we do.
Yeah. We got to do yoga. Yeah.
Isn't it the duties of a karma yogi?
Yes.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
And yeah, we mustn't show off about what we do for Krishna.
Yes, as well. And inaction would be where you falsely give up your duties, but your mind is active. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
We can't concentrate, yeah. We can't concentrate because we're showing off, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Adruta Mataji?
Hare Krishna. If the mind is active, we can be inactive. Of course, we are acting to serve our sense. We are engaged in our sense gratification, but we can be active in Krishna consciousness, in loving devotional service, and we can engage our senses in action for Krishna consciousness. And if we are enough engaged and we are fixed in Krishna consciousness, we can be inactive during meditation, but meditation like japa, no any kind of inactivity. This I understand from the purpose. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Okay, so everyone's clear on that, eh? Action and inaction. Right, so we're on verse 8 now, but I think we'll have to stop here. We've got Nishinga Devanand to do it. If anybody else wants to say anything. It was actually the last verse. Read it quickly. Maybe we can read it, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nityatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hi akarmanaha sharira yadrapi chate na prasiddhetyaha karmanaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. You see how Krishna is encouraging that everybody should be doing work. You can't just sit and lie there in inaction and say, I've got nothing to do. Because we are on this earth, in these human bodies, because of our karma. And we are placed in different categories according to our karma. And wherever we are placed, we have duties to do. So we've got to perform it. And Krishna says better. Krishna is saying better to perform your prescribed duty, whatever duties you in that body you have, whichever circumstances you are placed, do that duty, because it's better than not working. And how are you going to maintain your body now? So Prabhupada goes on to say, did we read this? I think we read this, Hare Krishna. Paramatma Prabhu?
Yes, Manaji.
We read this, didn't we?
Number 8.
Yeah. Why does it sound so familiar? Did we read it? See, now I'm going to see who's paying attention. I don't know. Okay, let's read the purport. Krishna did it for a reason, if we read it. So let's read the purport. So, there are many pseudo-meditators who misinterpret themselves as belonging to high parentage and great professional men who falsely pose that they have sacrificed everything for the sake of advancement in spiritual life. Now, Lord Krishna did not want Arjuna to become a pretender. Rather, the Lord desired that Arjuna perform his prescribed duties and set forth for a Kshatriya, as we explained previously, right? Arjuna was a householder and a military general, and therefore it was better for him to remain as such and perform his religious duties as prescribed for the householder, Kshatriya. Such activities gradually cleanse the heart of a mundane man and free him from material contamination. So-called renunciation for the purpose of maintenance is never approved by the Lord, nor by any religious scripture. After all, one who has to maintain one's body and soul together by some work should not be given up capriciously without purification of materialistic propensities. Anyone who in this material world is certainly possessed of the impure propensity for lording it off over material nature, or, in other words, for sense gratification. Such polluted propensities have to be cleared. Without doing so, through prescribed duties, one should never attempt to become a so-called transcendentalist, renouncing work and living at the cost of others. You see, we just discussed this just now. I gave you all an example of a householder. He can't just leave and run away and say, leave his young family and run away and say, right now I'm renouncing everything, I'm going to sit in meditation. Because it is not supported by Krishna. It says here, you have to do your duty. And that's going to purify your heart of mundane activities. Okay, it's a purificatory process. And as you do your duty, you will offer the results as you go along. Because Krishna says, Prabhupada says here, one should never attempt to become a so-called transcendentalist, a pretender, renouncing work and living at cost of others. You cannot impose your duty upon somebody else, isn't it? You've got to keep body and soul together, says here in the purport. We've got to look after these bodies to the extent that we must understand that the body is a vehicle. The body is carrying the soul. It's carrying the soul on a journey from this material world through to the spiritual world. The soul is seated in this body and it moves. The body changes from boyhood to youth to old age, isn't it? And then it dwindles and dies. That verse we've already done earlier on. So the soul is still in that body, but through all these changes of the body, we've got the intelligence as humans to look after the body to the extent that we've got to keep it strong enough for God realization, or spiritual realization. Okay. Not for mundane matters, for spiritual realization. And therefore, we've got to work. If you're householders, we've got to go to work. You cannot renounce that work and say, now, just leave it to this person and that person and every other person at the cost of others. Prabhupada is saying, can't do that. Because then you're not doing your duty. And not to do your duty is sinful. Krishna said to Arjuna, you don't do your duty as a Kshatriya, then you're going to incur sin. You won't be incurring sin by killing those people on the battlefield because your duty is to kill them. They miscreants, I want them out. And your duty is to kill them because they took away something that belonged to you in a incorrect manner, in an unfair manner. And because you're a Kshatri, you have to fight for what is yours. Kshatris are meant to do that. He's not saying to Arjuna, okay, go sit in the forest now, Arjuna, and meditate. The whole Bhagavad Gita is talking to Arjuna about how he should just do his duty. And then later on, how we're going to offer our actions to and make it a karma. Right. Okay, thank you, dear devotees. We're going to stop here. So we proceed now to Nrsingadev's pranams. Anybody want to lead pranams today? I just want to share the screen again, right? Put the Nrsingadev pranams on the screen. Anybody got any questions in the meantime while I'm sharing the slide?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I've got one question.
Yeah, thank you.
Imagine in text 7, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says the prime goal is to reach Vishnu. So if we say Vishnu, will we go to the Vishnu planets, or is it the same as Golok Vrindavan?
It's not the same. Vishnu is God, yes. He's an expansion of Krishna. Prabhupada uses Vishnu. We should not see any difference. We know that Vishnu is Bhagwan as well. But the planet that you reach or the destination that you reach is dependent upon your sadhana and your worship, the way you worship. Mm-hmm. So if you say you pray to Krishna in the form of Vishnu, and you know when we pray to Vishnu, we pray to him in awe and reverence. Anybody serving in the Lord Vishnu's planet, in the Vaikuntha planets, they assume the four-armed form of Vishnu. They look just like Vishnu, but they are not Vishnu, right? And they've got to serve him in awe and reverence. They cannot have a friendly relationship with him, or a motherly parental relationship, or conjugal relationship. They only have one relationship with him, of that of a servant. So you'll reach that planet if you practice that mode of service here. Because then the chances of you remembering Bhagavan in the form of Vishnu will be greater at the time of leaving your body. And if you think and focus on Vishnu at the time of leaving your body, then you'll reach Vaikuntha planet. See, one verse in here as well, Krishna says, if you worship the demigods, you go to the demigods. If you worship the ancestors, you go to the ancestors. If you worship the ghosts and demons, you go to that planet. If you worship me, you come to me. Yes, worship Krishna, worship Vishnu, it's the same, it's God. But it's a different type of ras. It's a different type of relationship, depending on what your heart wants, what your heart desires, not wrong. There's no right and wrong here. You worship Vishnu, you're worshiping God. But it depends on your mood of worship, your mood of service. What attachment you have, what type of form of the Lord you are attached to. Nrsingadev, there's a Nrsingadev planet in the spiritual world as well. Remember, we projected that diagram of the different planetary systems, and then we go to the spiritual planet, and I said there's a spiritual worlds are made up of Nrsingadev's planets, Lord Ramchandra's planets, Lord Chaitanya's, and then you get Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's original form, which is the highest abode. Remember, we spoke about that. Is that okay, Paramatma Prabhu?
Yes, thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Is that clear? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Right. So let's do Nrsingadev pranams. Namaste Narachundaya Praladala Tadahine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilatankaraye Ito Nrsingo Parato Nrsingo Yato Yamitato Nrsingo Pahil Nrsingo Hitaye Nrsingo Nrsinga Manim Charanam Tabati Tavakara Kamalavane Rakam Madhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubingam Keshavadritana Hari Rupa Jaya Jagadesh Hare Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Nrsimhadev, 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 Jai Nrsimhadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha, Lakshmi Nrsimha, Lakshmi Nrsimha, Jai Lakshmi Nrsimha. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra, His Divine Grace Abhichara Naradinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. वृंदावन धाम, मथुरा धाम, मायापुर, जगन्नाथपुरी, पंढरपुर, अरवादी, कुरुक्षेत्र, अयोध्या, द्वारिका धाम की जय। श्री गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नीताय गौरा प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। श्री कार्तिक मास की जय, श्री दामोदर मास की जय, श्री भीष्म पंचक की जय, श्री राधा दामोदर की जय, श्री यशोदा दामोदर की जय। All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vanchakalpa tarukyascha, kripasindubhya evacha, patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha, Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you very much, devotees. Sorry we went a little bit over time today. And I'll see you all next week.
Thank you, dear Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam.
Hare
Pranam to
Krishna,
everyone.
Mataji.